All right, I am here with Mischa Byruck of Evolve.men, coach. Well, I'll let you say a little bit more about what you do because you do more than just coaching. I know you're a speaker. I know you do all this great work with men. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It feels so good. I was having this moment of recalling like my first entree into Ace World and the first time I ever met Maria, and just remembering that I really didn't think much of the whole life coaching thing. I was raised in Ivy League institutions and with a very like clear sense of what was a respectable career, and I thought all this squishy West Coast life coach stuff was what wasn't for people who took their career seriously. And
Yeah.
so I'm recalling that fondly and thinking back of like part of my own evolution has been to the incredible development of respect for people who follow this path. And a big part of that was Maria. Was just whoa, the power, insight, um, and just wisdom that she emanated gave me so much faith in the coaching profession.
Oh, well, so glad to hear that, and so glad to kind of re-engage in this conversation. And yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is where a lot of people are at who are just kind of thinking about coaching
Mm-hmm.
as a career and saying, well, if people take me seriously, can I really do it viably? Is it all going to be squishy kind of um, woo-woo stuff? So
Yeah.
I'm glad you can share that part of your journey.
Yeah. Well, I also, yeah, actually interesting. I learned about 3 or 4 years ago, woo woo is a vaguely problematic racist.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's okay. Very few people do. Um, ancient Chinese stereotypes from early San Francisco is the way I learned it. So fascinating, right? Like these
Yeah.
terms that are like part of us. But it
Yep.
was interestingly, it was exposure to ACE coaches and communities that ACE coach communities led me into that helped me with those insights. ACE and the coaching path is part of what led me to much deeper anti-racist work,
Yep.
much deeper anti-sexist work, and also just built a network of friends that is still really strong today. Friends and peers. I don't know if you know that. You probably don't know this. I have been setting the arena weekly with a coach who I did my ACE coach training with for almost 5 years now, every week.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Remy Franklin and I
Oh,
have
yes.
peer coach, like coaching each other once every other week.
Oh, I love that.
Like
Did you know
alternating.
Remy is one of our mentor coaches now?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to Remy Franklin and his practice. And yeah, another type of energy of a professional rock climber who I just would never have been otherwise exposed to. The
Yep.
wisdom and discipline of his profession and his lifestyle has been massively influential on mine. And there's been times where I've been influential on him.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's one of the sweetest, most powerful, most useful parts of going through this program is just the community, the relationships, the mutual support, the collaboration. There's just so much of it that's just this is part of why, these interviews are fun because we get to kind of just keep building that community, keep highlighting the relationships. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. His coaching community. All right. So what's next?
well, there's a lot I want to ask you about. And you mentioned, um, justice, equity, diversity. I want to get into that too. But I love to start these interviews with, what are you celebrating right now?
Hmm. Right now, I am celebrating my first official referral partnership.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and we just launched it this week. We're going to be announcing it in a little bit more depth over the next week or two. I am the official accountability partner now of a Consent Academy, which is an
mm,
institution based in Seattle that offers consent education classes. And um, they are also an organization that throws events and has a lot of people in their orbit, in their community, their followers. They're big on Twitch, interestingly,
Mhm.
and sometimes there's harm in their community, people harming each other. And one of the things I do and I specialize in is supporting people who have done harm, to look at their standards of integrity. Now, let's get back to ACE tools, right? One of the first things I have my clients do is define their standards of integrity and evaluate their actions in the context of those standards, and look at harm, through the lens of integrity. And so, yeah, this is a partnership that I'm really excited about, because it is something that I think a lot of institutions should have, which is a partnership, a system in place, for dealing with harm within their community that doesn't involve them acting as judge, jury, executioner,
Yeah.
um, and an investigatory unit, which most community organizing entities and people don't have the capacity for.
Wow. I'm yeah, I'm inspired to hear about that partnership and the work that
Yeah,
you're
it's cool. I've got it in the works with a few other entities and organizations. Um, but and frankly, as a business person, it's a source of referrals, right? Which is useful for any kind of coach. But it's very much, for me, this partnership represents a step in the direction of what I want for the world, which is a big part of why I've become a coach. Is that it's the way I get to offer my contribution to the world. And in this case, it's shifting the conversation around men and sexuality across our country.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here to do.
I love it. I love how I think one of the things that new coaches struggle with is um, choosing a real focused direction of the work they want to do in the world.
Yeah.
Because especially this coaching model is a universal coaching model. And so it can really apply to so many different areas of focus, different people, different struggles, different desires. And oftentimes new coaches are like, well, I want to work with everyone. I see how it could help everyone. I don't want to limit myself. And then it becomes difficult to even really be clear about what you do. But I see you, and I've been uh, watching your content and stuff, and it's
Aw,
just,
that makes me feel so good. I just love that.
yeah, no, I love it. It's some of
Thank you.
the clearest content out there. So we'll put in the comments your socials and stuff.
Yes.
But
Thank you.
I just appreciate how clear you are about the difference you want to make in the world, the impact you want to make in the world,
So,
some of the bigger challenges you want to address. That's not just on an individual level, but on a society level. And you're really clear about how you apply the coaching toward that.
yeah. Well, it's interesting. So my background was always in social change. It was always in, right. I have a Master of Public Administration in International Development and Nonprofit Management from NYU. I have 15 years in the nonprofit sector, as an executive director, program
Well,
developer, and more recently as a fundraiser, and director of development. Various different kinds of causes. And one of the things that we talk about in nonprofit landia is impact and leverage, and interventions and modalities. And I've found, interestingly, that the one-on-one executive coaching of men who might have done harm around sexuality is one of the highest leverage, highest impact intervention modalities that one could possibly have. Right? It applies on an individual level, but it also applies on a systems level. When I'm
yeah.
supporting a leader of an organization
Mhm.
to like get deeper into his own integrity practice, that impacts everybody that he's a leader of, everybody who his life touches. That impacts the organization really deeply. So there's an actual social impact agenda underlying a coaching practice. And I actually know a number of different coaches who have that agenda. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited to engage with, whenever I get an opportunity to engage with someone who, maybe he's upset because he's let a lot of people down because he might have abused power in a little bit. Like if he's in my office, virtual office. If he's working with me, and that means that he's someone who wants to make a contribution in the world and has the capacity to like to influence a lot of people and be a force for good, and he wants to be, otherwise he wouldn't resonate with me. And
Of
so
course. Yeah.
yeah, so, and this is actually something that Maria um and the ace mentor coaches, Zotobi especially, helped me see, and Jeremy actually,
Mhm.
the how automatic and like how powerfully true it is that the people that you're passionate about impacting will be drawn to you and will
Yeah.
gravitate towards you, and that you'll know in your body, almost, right, almost, that there's an embodied sensation of
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, like I'm genuinely, and they talk about this in ACE, like, am I thrilled to support this person to realize their hopes and dreams? Does that excite me?
Yeah.
You know? And it's just so beautiful and clear when I see someone who's like, they might have fallen short right now, and that's partly what got them in the door, but boy, do they have some beautiful hopes and dreams. And I've worked with over 65 men now, one-on-one, around sexual integrity coaching, which is my modality, and they all have beautiful hopes and dreams. They all have a desire to make a difference in the world. They all have contributions that they're here to make. You know, that
Yeah.
there is no, I have never encountered someone who's just like, help me make lots of money, dominate the world, and screw a lot of women or something, and like just
Yeah.
get me there. Like that's just,
Yeah.
I've just never encountered that.
There are other coaches who
There,
attract us.
God knows, there's plenty. God, I could like write them a list of these toxic
Yeah.
men that they can work with. But no, I mean, I just, I think honestly, one of the things that I've learned in this work is, and one of the most profound things I remember actually talking to you, I remember how profound it was, of seeing the truth of the statement that everybody is here to make a contribution.
Yeah.
There's a deep vein of what I would actually term kind of problematically judgmental exceptionalism in the nonprofit sphere, where it's like we're the good guys, but most of the world not good.
Yeah.
Not here to be nice. They're not here to be contributions in the world. But that's just not true. It's not true. I have found again and again that even in potentially toxic environments, even regardless of socioeconomic status or race or age or even geographical location, people want to make meaning out of their lives. People want to be contributions to the world around them. They just do. And Maria helped me see that as a truth.
Yeah.
And one of the most profound kind of conversations I have as a coach is with people who are skeptical about the green lens, who are skeptical about this idea that like it's worthwhile or good or a good idea to see everybody across from you as a hero, whole and complete,
Mhm.
who has hopes and dreams and a desire to make a difference. Like
Yeah.
that is
It's radical.
pretty radical, pretty
Yeah.
radical. And I've applied it to, I've applied it to the Nazis. I've applied it to skinheads. I've applied it to it has really shifted my experience, and it's made me more confident, not like softer or weaker, but more powerful in this willingness to see people as heroes.
You're taking this fundamental uh, viewing point, this fundamental philosophy of our approach of seeing who people really are,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that they have thoughts, they have a brain, but they are not their thoughts, they are not their brain.
Mm-hmm.
They're whole and complete. And oftentimes, when they're acting in ways that's harmful, it's because of they're acting unskillfully.
Indeed. That's actually such a wonderful reminder of boy, you channeled Maria there. And I just, a lot of the clients who come in my door have developed a pretty, because they're generally, my clients are always heart-centered people. They've developed a pretty negative story about themselves. I work with a number of men, for instance, who have been called out publicly, who have been publicly shamed. It's pretty easy to red lens yourself as well as anybody else in your orbit. And reframing harm as, and again, I say this actually, not again, but it's important to caveat this, that this is, everything I say is contextual. And a most of the time declaration. But that said, recontextualizing harm as a matter of skill or
Yep.
a lack of skill. Like, oh, like it's important to me to be a skillful communicator, and I didn't do that with my ex-girlfriend. Or it's important to me to be a skillful leader, and I didn't show up like that in this instance. Like, you know, it doesn't let anybody off the hook, but it does reframe things as like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I am not bad. I am not my shame. I am not fundamentally flawed as a human because I have done this bad thing.
Yep. Yeah. And I think you're pointing to something key here, which is, and by the way, for folks unfamiliar, the green lens is one of
Uh,
the foundational tools in the Academy for Coaching Excellence coaching model. It's really, it's so
oh, I use it so much.
core.
I use it so
Um,
much.
and you actually learn it in the first course of foundational training.
Oh, it's
But
so useful. It's so
yeah,
good.
it's
It is.
the
It is. It has revolutionized
life
my
changing.
some of my clients' perspective. Go on. You were going to say something, please.
Yeah, no, it's good. Um, and yeah, one of the things you're pointing to is it does not excuse anyone's behavior. And in fact, and I think you'll agree with this because this is what your work is all about in so many ways, is it allows people to actually engage in changing
Yeah.
things that aren't working. It allows people to engage um, instead of just shutting down or blocking off. It allows people to engage, to change, to transform, to heal, to make a difference. You know, it opens up a sense of possibility. Does not excuse anything.
No.
On the contrary, it's just a stand for possibility and who people really are.
Yeah. And one of the things that I found um, as I developed my particular pathway for taking coaching into a career was how much the coaching perspective put forth specifically, I would say by ACE, and more in many ways than other coaching schools, aligned with some of the most compelling anti-racist philosophy that I've encountered. Aligned, in fact, with some of the most compelling prison abolitionist philosophy. That like the people who are advocating against the police state, against state violence, who are talking about they they're also the people who are the thought leaders around accountability, and they and the skills to really hold people accountable outside of a punitive context are very much aligned with the skills that ACE teaches. You need to be able to green lens someone who's harmed you. It's hard. You need to be able to green lens someone who continues to act in a way that is destructive after they've been harmed, which is also really difficult. Like the systems of community accountability put forth by the people who are talking about transformative and restorative justice are very aligned with the skills that ACE teaches in the coach in its coaching and in its MLE courses. Like I've seen so much beautiful, and it's beautiful. It's a lot of it's Buddhist inspired non-judgment, a lot of it's personal equanimity. It's seeing the divine in the other. It's seeing actions through the lens of skills. It's seeing people ontologically rather than trying to diagnose them. These are useful, applicable, practical skills for dealing with conflict and harm.
I just see your passion and conviction as you talk about this.
I am both passionate and convicted.
Yes.
Convinced. I don't know. I'm one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you just use the O word that we are all
Talked
about
about
here,
it. Let's talk about it.
ontology. Um,
Ontology.
what does it mean to see someone ontologically? What does it mean to you? Without, it can, ontology, we can get so abstract and conceptual with it, but it's, as you know, it's not the way we engage with it as coaches. It's real more of an experiential thing. So what does it mean to you to see someone ontologically?
Yeah. I guess I guess what I'd say is that the way that I present the difference between I'll actually start with the difference between psychology and ontology
Mhm.
um, when I present it to my clients when I'm for maybe potentially introducing this idea for the first time, is that I'm focusing on the things that you are here to do in this life before you die, rather than on the neuroses that have kept you from doing them.
Yeah.
So when I see someone ontologically, I'm seeing them and I think a lot of it has to do with where I point my lens. When I see someone ontologically, I'm seeing them first, frankly, as an incarnation of the divine. I know that sounds vaguely intimidating if someone is not like cool with spirituality, but like I really do see them as a miracle. It's actually really helpful. If someone's pissed me off in some way, or if I'm annoyed with someone, or if someone's hurt me, one of the first things I try to do is see them as a miracle, see them as an incarnation of God, frankly. And that's a helpful place to put my focus. It's a space filled with possibility, as Maria might say. But then what I do when I see someone ontologically is I repeat the green lens about them. I see them for their hopes and dreams and desire to make a difference. And then the third step is that part of the green lens that I find most useful, which is to examine the ways that this person is contributing to me right now. When I see someone ontologically, I see them as my teacher, even if they don't know it, even if they're not trying to teach me anything. Just their existence in my life is teaching me something. And so I see this person who's annoying me or is harming me as, this person is here to teach me something. And maybe that thing is to get away from them and know how to do that. Maybe that thing is to stop them from doing something. But generally speaking, there's something for me to see, something for me to learn. And seeing the world and like seeing the world ontologically as just a whole bunch of opportunities to learn from others is so sweet. It really takes the pressure off. Right. I remember before I discovered coaching, just putting so much pressure on myself to find the right judgment of people I encountered. Like, let me judge this person right. I want to make sure I'm judging them right.
Yep. Exhausting.
Diagnosing them right.
Yeah.
It took a lot of pressure off of me. Zotobi really helped me see that. Whatever I was bringing someone to him, I'd be like, this guy really annoyed me. And I had to like shut him down. He was like, Mischa, this man is your greatest teacher right now. I'd be like, Arr! Then of course he was right. Of course he was right. Like, what is this? This person is just, I hate right now. It's just, it's teaching me so much to be in the hatred.
I love it.
Yeah.
Of course, frustrating because that's not who you are. And it's like in that moment, shout out to Zotobi. We've been friends, by the way, since we were like 8.
Okay.
He was seeing you as who you really are.
Sure was. Yeah. Perfect example. Thank you for naming that. Yep. A really wonderful example of the importance of green lensing my clients. A lot of people assume when they hear about my practice that I am fundamentally some sort of like woke wrist slap in the form of a man's body to the problematic men of the world. And that's just not the case. Like, my practice begins and ends in love. My practice begins and ends in respect. It is a liberatory practice. And I believe coaching is as well in general. The second I think I'm better than the client, I am way off the card, to use ACE terminology. I am way off the card if I think I'm better in some way. Even if I'm convinced like I've got a lot to teach this guy and like that's where I'm placing my focus. I'm really off the card. Like, this is an opportunity for me to offer, a liberatory pathway and share with someone I respect tools to support him to be his best self in the universe. And that is just so much more possibility filled perspective than some of the more reactionary and dogmatic, very understandable assumptions that people make about a practice that involves working with people who have done harm.
Yeah. Part of what you're speaking to is another core viewing point that's part of the green lens tool, which is this person has their own answers. In other words, they have their own source of wisdom. So anytime I think a lot of people make an assumption about coaches that we have to have the answers for the clients, but it's absolutely not that in this way you're describing.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that like I offer tools, perspectives, opportunities for vision, but one of the big things that distinguishes me from what most people think of when you deal with like to deal with the problem of men are problem is they're like, oh, so you teach them how to be better. Well, that's one way of putting it, but like a better way is saying I'm supporting them to see the
Yep.
places where their own actions don't align with their own values. I continuously come back to like, this is not about this person giving you feedback that you're like, man, I have to accept it in order to like fit in. It's where was I out of my own integrity? Where was I not in alignment with my own standards? If it's important to me to be generous, where was I being generous in this instance? If it's important to me to be loving, was I being loving? Like,
Mhm.
no shit. And then connecting back and back again and again to this person having their own answers, you know, even if in certain moments they're not seeing them or not acting in alignment with those answers, not making it about, yeah, I never make it about this person just didn't have good answers, doesn't have good answers, and they need me to teach them.
Yep. Very clear.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, I'm glad. I think we handled that one. We were unsure if we were going to be able to handle that one well, but
I love it.
pat ourselves in the back. Little
Yeah.
moment of celebration in the ACE
Yeah.
tradition. Take a look around at the view. Here we are halfway through our interview. Right? It was lovely.
Yeah. So sweet. Uh, um, you mentioned before, part of your journey getting trained as a coach and becoming a coach is um, learning more and kind of leveling up with your own um, inclusiveness, your own sense of
Mm.
justice, equity. Say more about what you've learned along your journey, and especially how does it show up in your practice? Because I know that you exemplify having that as part of the integrity of your coaching practice.
Yeah, I the word that's coming to me in this moment is humility. I think, and I I think, yeah, so much of my practice has to do with supporting my clients to find the joy of humility in their own lives. Humility mixed with dignity. Humility that doesn't feel like I have to self-abnegate or self-erase, but
Yeah.
rather humility in the face of genuine historical context. This is the part that I feel like both the left and the right often don't quite land on in a way that resonates with most people. When I feel my own white privilege, the correct you know sometimes the correct answer is to shut up, sometimes the correct answer is to speak up, but always the correct answer is to be humble. Right? And humble in the most grand sense of the word, humble in the face of things I don't understand, humble in the face of encountering people whose experiences I can never possibly relate to or understand. um
Yeah.
humble in the face of just seeing the very, very real evidence of how intensely people experience me because I'm a white man, and not just a white man, but a white man with like education and privilege, who's able-bodied, who's cisgendered, who's straight presenting. Humility, humility in the face of all that, and still understanding that it's my job to offer my gifts to the world.
Yeah.
That it's not my job to like crawl into a hole where all the bad white
Yeah.
people should go, but
Yeah.
rather it's my job to offer my gifts to the world in a way that's humble, in a way that's an offering. um I mean, so concretely, I talk about anti-racism. I don't present myself as a anti-racism instructor in any way. I think that's very important to make that distinction.
Yep.
I do, however, and I'm very proud of having done this, I've encouraged over half a dozen of my peers and colleagues and exes and fellow students and friends to take anti-racism instruction with my anti-racism mentor, the Reverend Bridge Feltus of the Intersection for Mankind out of Los Angeles, who does a lot of ontological work in her anti-racism teaching and has a deep Buddhist influence, just like Maria.
Will you send me that name after this interview?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And who approaches the practice of anti-racism from this incredibly loving and accepting place of, supporting white people to be in integrity. So she and Maria are the people who have given me my integrity practice. Like very, very, like it's a very clear transmission from both, and supporting me to see the ways that white supremacy has separated me from my humanity. That makes justice, equity, diversity, inclusion work far more of a liberatory practice for me, something that brings me closer to my fellow humans and closer to my own humanity, than some sort of noblesse oblige, woke performance contrition thing that like will have the wrong energy no matter how you cut it.
Right. Doesn't feel good for anybody.
Doesn't feel good for anybody, and isn't really an integrity, right? Like if I'm saying, oh, I don't understand this stuff, but I get that there's certain words that I'm supposed to say, then it will have the wrong energy even if I say the right words.
Right.
And that also extends, like, for instance, I don't know, just I want to make this concrete. I hate it when people's answers about racism or anti-racism like stay super vague. So like I'm trying to make it more concrete. When I'm in courses and workshops as in my professional development and I see someone saying something even inadvertently racist, I tend to call it out with as much love and compassion and understanding and like as I possibly can, right? I don't try to make myself a social justice warrior. I just name it. I've gotten to the point personally where noticing that stuff actually does offend me personally, rather than like it being some sort of like white knight, this is for other people, but I don't give a shit type dynamic. I tend to judge myself in terms of how I talk about women and people of color on, like I know I make sure that I never am speaking when I'm in a room of all white guys in a way that if a woman or a person of color were to hear or to be there or to be a fly on the wall would like feel really offended by or feel disappointed by, oh, Mischa, I thought you were different, right? Like that's like one of my big litmus tests is like, am I speaking in a way that if they were here, they'd be like, oh yeah, whatever. I think that's a useful thing. And part of that is also like when I've had people of color, talk to me about becoming clients of mine, like I definitely offer major discounts, like huge discounts to people of color or people from other marginalized communities for my coaching and my teaching. That's an easy one. That's an easy yes for me. And I'm also just, I never ever would take it personally, for instance, with if a person of color is like, Mischa, I love your practice. I just don't think I could learn from you. Like I think I can be, I can be intensely white sometimes.
And it goes back to that humility. I mean,
just go back. Yeah. Like I'm just trying to be more with it.
And integrity as well. I mean, this is one of your major things. It's especially,
but yeah,
when it's around, if I'm in a room, even by myself or with, one other white man, am I still showing up in integrity?
Absolutely. Right. And it's so easy to think that, well, there's no black people present to be offended by, so I'm just going to be able to relax with my language. But that indicates that like there's still a lot of unexamined racism. And that's not problematic because society says it's so. It's problematic for me because it's really out of my integrity to be fucking racist.
Yep.
It's really, really out of my integrity. It's really important to me to like look at this stuff. And again, holding all of that with love. Like one of my other mentors is a person named Angel Adioha, who has also done ACE work. I don't think they've been certified, but they've been in this world for a long time.
Mhm.
They currently run the Folsom Street Fair, one of the largest leather and kink events in the world. They've been a transformative justice facilitator, incredibly experienced in all realms of alternative sexuality and queer acceptance. They're two-spirit, non-binary. They like to say, Mischa, when it comes to patriarchy and white supremacy, we're all pickles swimming in the same brine. You can't escape this stuff. You can't pretend, like that society is the brine and we're all just pickles. So white supremacy is in me, it's in you, you know, it's part of our culture, part of our society. And the thing to do is to wake up to the brine that we're swimming in and just be humble about the fact that we're all pickles. We can just do our best, given that we're all still pickles swimming in the same brine. And I love that because it's such a sweet way of being like, there is work to do. And just avoid even the conceit that you can somehow escape what society has taught us.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me of one of our, really the core of what our coaching model is, which is look, see, tell the truth, and take authentic action.
Amen.
And being able to look long enough at something to really see something new emerge, which can be uncomfortable, but you can do it with a sense of, I think humility and integrity allow us to look at something that might be uncomfortable to look at so we can see the truth of it and then tell the truth.
Yep.
Tell the truth about what is the brine, if you will. And only after you do that can you really take authentic action to change it. So it's not like, okay, we're going to tell the truth. This is what's so, and there's nothing we can do about it. And it's like, no, and by looking and seeing and telling the truth, that gives you the power to change things. And that's the impact piece you were speaking to in the beginning.
Mm.
And it creates an opportunity for change.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Again, I really do believe ACE tools align really well with anti-racist practice.
Yep.
I think they're great. They're foundational, so that we don't, especially as white people, get lost in the morass of our own self-pitying, self-abnegating shame spirals or defiance spirals or whatever. Like setting the arena, looking at each other through the green lens. These are really useful.
Yep. I love it. And it's just brings joy to my heart to see you bringing it to the work you're doing and to know that there's other people trained in this, bringing it to areas where it can make a real big impact, a real big difference. That's
Yeah. Thanks
why
for
we do
saying
it.
that. So, but you had a question earlier that I wanted to make sure we got to, because if your audience is like us aspirational or potentially aspirational coaches or people who are looking into getting into this work, I want to, yeah.
What would you say to them?
What would I say to them? Okay, consider the question asked. Like, what would I say? What do I say to them? One of the, so I have not seen, like, I actually, interestingly, like, I know some people who make a lot of really good money doing like really pure life coaching, and there are, I have a friend, who makes $50,000 a year per client, and he just has 4, maybe 5 clients a year, and that's a clean 250 or something, and he's doing fine. And I know other coaches who are in the 7-figure level who are really, and partly, I mean, the ACE tools are fundamental, but the thing that's like making those people that I know who are making that kind of money and are really living that kind of successful is such a weird word, but like for them, successful coach life or making it work for them financially, are people who are born to coach. And they have cultivated not just a bunch of tools, but they've cultivated an incredibly transformative presence.
Yep.
such that when I'm around them, I feel better about myself. I feel like right, and like this is what right Maria always says: a coach, the essence of a coach is someone around whom you want to be your best self.
That's it.
That's about presence. And what I find is that a lot of people come to coaching not fully sure that that energy is truly what they're passionate about creating and about passionate about being. You know, like I think I also frankly struggle with this and engage with this. Like there's a lot of me that's really truly passionate about being a teacher and a writer and a speaker, um, and being out front and having the ideas and teaching things, and like I love that, and it doesn't necessarily conflict with being a coach. um and the more and more I'm getting into my career, the more and more I'm finding myself teaching. um but I'm still spending most of my time coaching. And and yeah, like I I don't think that that's everybody's passion. I think coaching is a really, because it's unregulated and because it's easy to just think, oh, this is going to be the thing. Um, but I've seen it be an effective stepping stone. I've seen it be both an actual career and a really powerful way of propelling someone to the thing that's going to be their fuck yes. Like
Yeah.
a lot, you know, like and I love that. I see that in so many of the people I've done ACE with, who have gone on to like, okay, yeah, like I started off full-time coaching, but now I'm doing kind of some sort of coaching, but it's basically like I'm applying coaching in my nonprofit job or within my organizational development, like personnel development role. Like I'm in a learning and development specialist role within a company or corporation. I've seen people apply their coaching tools to just being an effective manager.
Yeah.
I've seen them be full-time coaches for a while and make all the money they want to do, and then go do something totally different like carpentry.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, and I've seen people apply their coaching um, in to essentially careers that have become therapy, that have been like, you know what, I want to read these books, I want to like learn about attachment styles, I want to be a therapist, and the coaching helped me see that, and that's like got me there.
Or I want to heal people, not just support people to
That's it.
move
Thank you.
past where they're stopping
That's it.
themselves.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Really, I think that's some of the best advice you could give, because it's uh, yes, there are people who are just, and obviously I see, as admissions director, I see all types of people come through it, and yes, there are people who
I
would say,
bet
this
you
is
do.
what I want to do. I just want to coach all day, and that's great. And then sometimes that evolves, but the coaching in so many ways is just a way of being. I mean, the way you're talking about it is like, I could do anything, and I'm not going to stop bringing the coaching presence
Mm-hmm.
that you're talking about to anything I do. And it may be as a speaker, and it's also flexible. So you can be doing something else while building your coaching practice. You can use your coaching practice to, you can combine it. Some people love doing multiple things. Speaking and coaching, for example, is a classic combination, because you can go out there and share your point of view, and then work with people one on one, where you just support their wisdom, and you're not, it's different contexts.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was, I have a background as a musician,
Mm-hmm.
so coaching was great because I could keep being a professional musician and build coaching up on the side. And I reached a certain point where I was like, well, now I'm actually making more money from coaching, so let me scale back some of the teaching music that isn't as exciting right now, that was maybe more exciting 10 years ago. And now I'm leading courses, so I scale back my coaching to do course leading at the academy. So it's such a just flexible, um just I don't know what the word is, but it can support your career in whatever way your career is going to go, including, and I love that you're speaking to, you see some people who just want to coach, and that's
Yeah.
their path.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a brilliant toolkit. It's also incredibly useful in relationship and intimate
But
relationship, as well as just friendship. Like there, I cannot tell you the number of times where I have been slightly dysregulated by someone coming to me and like bringing me a lot of their upset. Either they're angry at me, or they're angry at someone else, or they're just crying, or they're right. And as I receive that, I repeat the green lens, and I think of Tonglen, you know, And I think of breathing in there suffering and breathing out compassion. And I take myself away from diagnosing or solving and into the depth of presence. I'm so grateful to Ace for giving me just a the, the the true taste that allowed me to develop a real palate for the power of presence.
I think that's a wonderful note to wrap on. I mean, I think you and I could talk for another 3 hours on this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a lot for people to take with
Yeah.
them. So thanks for sharing your energy, your enthusiasm, your wisdom, your perspective. This has been super fun.
Super fun. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Greg, and really appreciate it.
All right.